Hey FLOSSTUBE, it's Leigh from Creatively on Sunday 10 October with FLOSSTUBE number 96, and yes, I'm back home. I got home about an hour ago and just been to the supermarket, got a few groceries. Didn't get a video pre-recorded like I said, and it's only, I don't know, 6 o'clock or something. So I thought I'd do a quick little video, probably not a quick little video, and just catch you up on what's been going on. Lovely day at home. It was quite a good drive home because Auckland's still at level 3 lockdown, although slightly, I don't even know what level they're at. I think they're allowed to go out and join 2 bubbles for a picnic or something, and then parts of Hamilton or parts of the Waikato are at strict level 3. I was in the unlockdown part of Waikato overnight, and because we've got hardly any Auckland or Waikato traffic, it wasn't a bad drive down, but it's always long. I think I did it in about 7 hours 15, so I just stopped a couple of times. I didn't stop to take video and talk to you all, so that's pretty good. But anyway, for those of you who might have missed the last video, I've been in the up with my dad for a week in the Bay of Plenty, kind of birthday, a lot of birthdays for friends and family. I caught up with my friend Valessa, who I went to school with. She was a best friend at high school, and her birthday was earlier in September, 50th. And then last night and this morning, my best friend, and she's in Morrinsville, Tanya, she had turned 50 today, so it's why I sort of stayed the night with them. We went, her mum took us out for lunch yesterday in Tauroha, and then we had a nice dinner and clafouti for dessert, and then they were heading off to do things this morning, so I left pretty early-ish and got home. And while I was up there last week, my great aunt turned 100, and she didn't have a big party because of the restrictions, lockdown or restrictions in numbers and stuff. Her formal party got cancelled, but they pretty much held a bit of a 2 or 3 day open home where people just popped in and visited and had a cake and a chat with her, which actually meant you got to spend a little bit of time with her, which is nice. And of course, I always visit her several times when I go home, so Dad and I popped in to see her on the Tuesday, and her birthday was on Thursday, and then on Friday there was a write-up in the local paper about her. So there's my Auntie Ivy. Ivy celebrates 100 years in the Eastern Bay. It was Whakatani's in the Eastern Bay of Plenty, and she's born and bred there and lived there all her life. Anyway, I'm going to quickly show you what I've been stitching the last couple of days. A little bit of haul came in while I was away, and then I will see what the time is, and I might do the stitching related questions that I said I was going to do pre-recorded and I didn't do. Anyway, so I'll go back a couple of weeks because I didn't show, on my last video, I didn't show you what I'd stitched on the week before, but I did do a bit of work on Oriental Lady Grace, who she has stitched on, she's from Joan Elliot. Not taking her out of the thing. She's stitched on 32 count Taupo linen from Country Stitch, and I did quite a bit on her before I went away. Keep in mind, everywhere that's back stitched I had stitched before. Everything not back stitched I worked on. So the flower here, all of this in here, and all of this here. So yeah, I've got quite a bit done on her, which is really good progress. There's still a lot for her. There's a lot to stitch on her yet. Don't worry about that. And then I also picked up on the Friday before I went away my Bella Bee, Nora Corbett Bella Bee, that one, which at the moment I am only stitching when I stitch with Karen. We're doing a kind of a stitch along, or what I'm calling hashtag just beat it, even though I haven't actually posted a picture or a hashtag about this, but if and when I do, it's going to be hashtag just beat it. So she's doing which fairy is she doing? An R? I can't remember. She's doing one of the fairies, I think for her sister. And I got all the rest of the background done, all of that, and then I started on her skin. So I'll do this, finish the skin, then I'll do the hair, then her headband, and then I can start with all the that's the stitching that will have the most, what am I trying to say? That will complete the sort of big blocks of stitching, then everything else will be filling and beading. So actually, like I'm probably a good, just under a half done, or just on a half done, I reckon. While I was at Dad's, I got a little bit done, but I just worked on my Modern Folk Embroidery Fruit of Plenty sale, which I'm stitching on 40 count Toitoi linen from Country Stitch using DMC 919 and 922. And I am, I don't have the picture, I've screwed them up, but never mind. I got up to date and beyond, and what I mean by that is, so I stitched I got all of, I can't remember what month we're in, October, so all of October done, and then because this is, you know, the outsides and is mirrored, I just carried on. I already had done that bit, I just carried on and got that bit done because these four corners are all the same, and then finished that triangle as well, which you only had half of that showing. So I've got a head start on December, which will be great. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with that. I think it's looking fantastic. Jacob started talking about his next year's, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? Do I do it? I said I wasn't gonna do it, and now I want to do it, but it does look, it is a mono design, so we'll see. See what it looks like. At least he gives you the picture, and then I could always sign up for it and then just not stitch it next year, but just, wow, he sells them anyway later, so you're not like you miss out. Anyway, so that is everything I stitched on last week. While I was away, a few things come in. Now, some of you Kiwis will be aware, at least, you know, USPS has temporarily put a hold on shipping to New Zealand. I do have a couple of parcels that are out in the wild. One of them, I believe, has already left America, and it's sitting at some, you know, Japan, Taiwan, or Vietnam, or all of the above, waiting. So that'll turn up eventually. There's one that was shipped, I think, 2 days before USPS said that they were putting a hold on it, and may or may not be returned. I did get a couple of updates today saying it's been received at a regional facility and what have you. So it's my fabric from Garon Stitchery, so I hope it gets shipped. I hope it doesn't get returned, but it'll be fine. The main reason, it's kind of a bit odd, the reason they say that they put a hold is lack of delivery methods, which is true. We don't have many planes coming here at the moment, but we haven't had many planes coming here for like 18 months. So I know that their system's getting chocked up. I know our mail takes ages, and it's sitting in airports waiting for a plane. And I imagine, you know, if you send 10 parcels and they take 10 months to get to you, and then but you order 10 parcels every month, I guess there's going to be a backlog. So I don't know. It is what it is, but yeah, we'll see. I don't have any subscriptions coming from the States anymore since I put a nix on Victorian Motto, so that's good because my mail from France arrived, and mail internally arrived, and the Australian mail, I guess it's been shipped to Catherine, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, possibly won't be putting any orders in with 123 for a little while until USPS announce that shipping is back on. Anyway, my Tom and Lily came in for September while I was away. From Melanie, hi, here is your September thread pack, specially chosen hand-dyed and delivered to your door. This month's colour theme is Vine, a winey range for all your autumn and harvest stitching, aka spring here. I chose this range to represent the starting month of September for the grape harvest and consequent winemaking. Browns for the wood and barrels, greens for the leaves, dark pinks, plum burgundy for the wine, and beige to represent the cork. So that's cool. So, oh yeah, there we go. The theme is wine. Just a little free chart like normal. And this month's sort of freebie is a packet skein of Mulan silk. I think it's silk, or is it cotton? Oh no, it's cotton. Madeira cotton. So 10 meters of 6 strand in the colorway 1310. It's nice. Just a note, if anyone is interested in signing up for Tommy Lily, just look for Tommy Lily Creations. There's the website on the screen. And if you do sign up for a subscription and you just mention that you found out about them through me, you may get a sign-up gift and I may get a sign-up gift, but no obligation. I didn't actually know that until someone signed up and then they told me. And they are quite nice. Let me just sort it out. It's a nice bunch of floss. So we've got sesame, galanga. It's quite pretty. It has got a nice subtle variegation from light through to a bit darker rose. Azalea. Gorgon. Chocolat. I know I've had a chocolat in another set. Jacinth. It's pretty. A couple of greens. We have bamboo and sapam. I think I've had sapam before. Not sure. And 2 dark browns. We've got Acor and Corbeau. So that is very nice. Let's see if I can do this again. Hopefully that's in screen because I can't see. Just before I went away, I bought some fabric off of one of the New Zealand Facebook groups, off of Michelle and Judy, and I just got some 32 count and some standard linen. So 32 count light mocha, vintage country mocha, which I recently got in 28 count for. I got 28 count in the vintage country mocha from Zweigart for the Tempting Tangles Giovanni's alphabet, but this one's 32 count, and then 32 count platinum because good staple. So at least one of these will be used to kit something up immediately, and the others may just go in my stash. So that's the new stuff that came in. Okay. So a few questions that we had relating to just stitching related questions, but not questions from Zeb. That'll have its own video when I finally, I promise to do it this month because that will motivate me to tidy up. I'm going to clean up my craft room, and then I'll do a bit of a tour of the craft room and how I store my stitchy stuff, or it's not going to be that overwhelming, and my stash and I don't know, stuff like that. But these are going to be the stitching questions that I got I asked for a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to move through them pretty quickly, so if you want any more information or anything where you want me to expand on or produce examples of, let me know. Okay, cool. So from Margaret Yoda, how long have you been stitching? So probably counted cross stitching, probably around 17 or 18, no, probably 17 I think. I know I started before I went to university, and I went to university when I was 18, but I had done some needlepoint, which I don't kind of count the same, because you're when you're doing a tapestry and just stitching over the colours. I did that when I was a bit younger in my teens, and I first did crosses on gingham fabric to make a tablecloth, a pattern on a tablecloth, just on some gingham fabric when I was a lot younger. So that's when my mum's sister, my aunt Anne, taught my sister and I how to stitch, and just like how to thread a needle and make crosses and stuff. And we designed a pattern onto a bit of gingham around the edge, and that's when I started doing sewing, decorative sewing, embroidery. But yeah, counted cross stitch probably around 17, I'd say. From Fee Kyle, I don't know if I wrote that down correctly. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. I typed all this into Excel and may not have read it properly. Do you have any tips for stitching with silk? It is different. I've been stitching a long time and I have used silk on and off in different projects. I've heard of people don't like silk, so I would say if you want to give silk a go, find something like an ornament or a little pillow or something, or a project that might have just one skein of silk in it. You can mix silk and stuff, and give it a go, because you might not like it, and I wouldn't want you to go ahead and kit up a full-on Jeanette Douglas with silk and then hate it, and have spent something like $120 on silk or something. So do try it. There is, you can mix silk and cotton. They're just fibers, and silk isn't necessarily that shiny. It does have a luster about it, and it takes the dye differently from cotton. So the same color in cotton and silk will be different. It'll look slightly different, have different sheen, and it will have a different hue. It'll be slightly different. But I love silk. Silk, like cotton, has a nap to it. So, if ever you pull off a skein of thread, this isn't going to do it because I'm not going to split it, but you split off a single one, you pull it, you run your fingers one way and then you run your fingers the other way. It'll feel softer one way. So you want to stitch with the plies lying down, and it gets less fuzzy, it makes less noise, it goes smoother. Unless, of course, you want to manipulate the colour. It doesn't really matter, because sometimes I'll stitch with the other end because I want to do more on the dark blue, not the light blue, or whatever it might be. I've dropped another thread, but I'll pick it up in a minute. So for me, I love the texture of it. I love how smooth it is, especially on linen, compared to, say, cotton on Ada, which you can get a little bit like get that kind of, it is rougher, it has more noise to it. But silk on linen can often be, it's a lot quieter. When I was stitching on my Nora Corbett the other night with Karen, and we were on a messenger call, and I had been stitching the background, which is in water lilies, Karen water lilies, which is beautiful. It's lovely to stitch with, and it's 12 ply, I think, so you get quite a lot of, you get good bang for your buck, I guess. And I was stitching away, and then I switched to, we're chatting, and then I switched to the skin, which is in DMC, stitching away, and she goes, what's that noise you're making? I'm like, oh, that's just the sound of the thread. She couldn't hear me stitching the silk, but she could hear me stitching the cotton. There are different ways of spinning the silk and preparing the silk. So, and often, and I'm not going to go into a whole, like you can look up on the internet, go to the Oversoir website. They don't help you with the colours, but they have explanations of their different kinds of silk. So all their different names, the soie d'Alger, the Alger method is a method of how the silk is spun, and there's soie is French for silk, so soie perlée, soie, the 103. 103 is related to the weight of it. They all have different preparations, and certainly stitching, say, with Oversoir is different to using Karen water lilies, which is different again to using Silks for You silk. So anyway, not all silks created equal. That doesn't mean they're worse or better than each other, they just stitch differently. So there's lots of charts that have silk included in the mix. So something like, I mean, a chatelaine is a really expensive way to try silk out, but they often use different fibres from different companies. They mix cotton and silk. Just Nan do, Victorian Sampler do. Don't cut your silk too long because it does get fuzzier than cotton. So of course every time you pull your thread through, it's friction. So the more times you pull your thread through, the more fuzzy it could get. So maybe cut them a little bit shorter. Silk is a little bit stretchier. It is stretchier than cotton, in my opinion. You feel a little bit of give. So it can be it's a little different to get the tension how you like it. I think it's easier to get nice plump stitches than cotton. It's harder to pull it too tight like you can with cotton. I have to run my thread a bit longer under the back of my stitches when I'm tying off, because I tend to run my cotton just under a couple of threads and then I cut it and it stays, doesn't come undone. But silk, it's just that little bit looser, a little bit slippier, a little bit stretchier. If you only run it under 2 stitches, it can come undone. You've got to go back and repair it. So maybe run it under a few more stitches, do a barge yellow knot at the back, where you come back, and just that's probably the hardest thing with silk, is that it can undo easier. Don't have rough nails, bit of hand moisturiser occasionally to keep, if you've got rough hands, because it'll catch on the silk more than it does on cotton. But otherwise, just try it. That was quite a lot about silk, wasn't it? Cherie said, who are your favourite designers? Oh, that's a real tricky one. Definitely, back in the day, loved Teresa Wentzler was my first love. I've stitched 3 of her designs, and I plan to stitch another one next year in my 50 at 50, and yeah, I do love her blends and her beads and her colours and how lush they are. So I really loved Teresa Wentzler. Then I fell in love with Mirabilia. I've stitched, I still have 8 completed Mirabilias, 3 fairies, 3 mermaids and 2 angels, and I also stitched one of the Sleeping Beauty ones, the one where she's lying and she's got the curtains. I'm not sure if it's called Sleeping Princess or Sleeping Beauty, but I sold that to an aunt, and I would stitch more, but there's just only so many fairies and angels and big ladies you need on your wall, right? Doesn't mean I won't stitch more, but yeah, I do love Mirror. I'm a real fan of Long Dog Samplers, having only really stumbled upon them a couple of years ago, 2019, and I've stitched 4, and I want to start another one next year, and she keeps bringing out fantastic designs. But I love Tempting Tangles and Ink Circles. There's a whole lot of designers on Etsy. I just love cross stitching. Do I use any magnification when I stitch on the higher count fabrics? Sort of. So for me, higher count is 36 and up, or 35 and up. So when I picked up stitching again a couple of years ago, I did find, I hadn't got my progressives. These are progressive lenses. So plus 0.75 at the bottom, clear in the middle, and at the top is -1 for driving and seeing who's walking down the street and what's down the aisle in the supermarket. Before I had them, I had found that my old lady eyes had come in and my arms were a bit short. So my optometrist said just get a cheap pair of +1s, because you can't get plus 7.75s off the shelf, and So I use 0.75s. I can stitch on 14 count without them. It's just a little bit, not as much, a bit squinty. And then when I got my progressives, I then usually just use these, so I'm actually only using 0.75. That's right up to at least 40 count. Haven't actually stitched on 46 yet, but when I stitched on the 55-60 count, I did find the the plus 0.75s weren't enough. So then I popped my plus ones on top, essentially giving me 1.75. And it was great, could see it really easily. So yes, I use essentially reading glasses, but not a separate magnifier. And for me, it's more about good light is as important. If I go somewhere where I'm not taking a light, so a Stitchy retreat or whatever, I don't have my light, I just take something that's on a higher count, so 32 count, I can stitch without a light quite easily, but I wouldn't stitch 40 count without a light. Oh, there's a few from Viv's Crafts. What are your favourite themes, subjects of stitching? Definitely samplers. I've always loved samplers. And I like big ass projects, so BAPs. I get a bit impatient with small things because they're over too quickly. I enjoy the mermaids and the fairies, the mirrors and all that, because I enjoy the blings. I like things that have specialty stitch, or really we should stop calling them specialty stitches. We should call them embroidery stitches that aren't cross stitch, because cross stitch is an embroidery stitch as well. Specialty stitches. I like geometric designs. I like literary references. I like the occasional subversive design. I love colour, I love texture, I love mono, I love mixing silks and overdyes. What attracts you to certain designs? I have varied taste. It can be anything from the colours of the design or where I can see it in my house. When I talk about a new or a planned start on my channel, I often will say why I've picked it, if there's a reason why I picked it, or you should go, oh my god, it's beautiful, or I love this fabric, or the colours are amazing, or I love the saying, or whatever it is. So, and I'll make sure I do that as and when I pick the starts for my 50 at 50. I'll explain why it A was in the box, kitted up, and B why it made the cut, I guess. But I don't know, they speak to you really, you like it, there's something about it that just you want to stitch it. It's just mostly gut feel, emotional reaction. Have I done full coverage pieces like a Hutt or Artisy, etc.? No. I have done full coverage smalls like bookmarks and Carolyn Manning designs. I did, again, back when I picked up stitching again, the first thing I started was I bought a Hutt, I can't think of the name, Merlina, she does pixies and exotic poses. She does art, she's a digital artist, and she does other art and paintings and cards and things, obviously her licensing is with Hutt. I bought it and I started on 25 count and I hated it. It slows me down, stitching 1/1 or stitching over 1 on 25 count. I then decided, I went and bought a whole big massive piece of Ada, and I started on 18 count Ada, but the coverage wasn't good enough. And also I stitched a whole lot of black, because I started at the bottom and I just stitched a whole lot of black, and I was like, why am I stitching this? I don't want to put it on my wall. I really like the artwork. Sometimes it's like, just go and buy a little card that you can just look at on a pin board and go, I really enjoy the artwork. Sometimes, I don't know. I just decided I didn't want to spend all that time stitching it, and in the meantime I could stitch 7 other things. That being said, I have recently just purchased a full coverage from Cross Stitch Collectibles. Terrible picture, and it's been screwed up in my bag, but it's a oh crap, what's the artist's name? The artist is Vittorio Zechin. He's a 20th century artist, I think 20th century, and he was also a Venetian glass. He made glass for Murano Glass in Venice, and this is a a section from a bigger piece of art. This is called Women in Profile, and it's from It's either from his Arabian Nights or his 1001 Nights painting. Oh, also he did tapestries as well. So I kind of like the idea of doing a piece in an embroidery form, given he was an artist who also did tapestries and stuff. The picture is terrible. It's going to look amazing. It's not too big. It's 350 by 350. That's comparable to a Carolyn Manning, just it's not geometric. I'll probably get, I'm going to see, I might get 20 count Ada. I don't want to stitch it 1/1 on 25 count because I can't use the sewing method. And I stitch with the sewing method. And I don't want to be slow and it will slow me down. But I think that'll make it a nice size because this would actually be really tiny or quite small on 25 count 1/1. So I like that. And I'm tempted to do 2 or 3 of these and then make them into cushions or something because I think they're really cool. It's going to be way more vivid than this, but I just love his style of art. And there's also the opportunity, if I wanted, I could put frickin' beads in here where the gold is, you know, for the jewellery, but I won't. I'm going to do the stitching. So yeah, I bought that one just before I went away and I'm going to stitch that. So I do have full coverage. This might be started next year, who knows, but I don't have any aid or anything. Anyway, so there you go. Might be in the future. It's a lot smaller than the other one that I just abandoned. What's your average stitching time per day or week? On a day I commute, that means on the train and stuff, I only stitch in the evening and I will stitch usually, if I'm doing nothing else other than coming home, making dinner, putting stuff in the dishwasher, sitting down and watching a bit of telly, I will stitch for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, usually 7 till 9-ish, or 7:30 till 9-ish. So maybe 2 hours on average. I probably do closer to 2. If I'm working from home, I can stitch longer. I can start early. I can do a bit at 5:30 and then have dinner. So I usually can get maybe 3 hours in the evening, but also I might stitch for 40 minutes at lunchtime and I might even do a little bit in the morning. So let's say I get another hour. So when I'm not commuting, I get another two-ish hours. I can stitch 4 hours a day. And at the weekend, if there's a weekend where I'm not without plans, I can probably stitch get about 13 hours to 15 hours in, you know, one really big day of stitching and then maybe a little bit on the Sunday night kind of thing. But again, if I'm busy, if I've got plans, that might drop down to sort of 8 or 9 hours. But probably I can get, what's the mass on that? So a normal week when I'm commuting, a little bit on at the weekend, about 10 hours, maybe an extra hour on Friday, 11, and let's say 10 hours. So I probably do between 20 and 30 hours a week of stitching. Do I take stitching with me for travel or staying in waiting rooms? So travel, like I went away to my dad's for a week. I took a couple of projects with me. I also took my Peppermint Purple Sal, 21 Sal with me because I would have a couple of weeks to do. I'm a couple of weeks behind in the boxes, but also I've got quite a lot of border I could do, but I just didn't get to it. So I'll take, a couple of projects to my dad's if I go away. If I go away for a retreat, obviously I take some stitching, but if I just go away for the night to a friend's, if I went away to stay at a hotel for a weekend, probably not, because the light's going to be terrible and hopefully I'm out drinking or something. I'm not going to sit in a hotel and stitch. I could, if I'm going to go away, it's because I'm doing stuff. I'm not going, if I wanted to stitch, I'll just stay home. It's cheaper. And I don't take them to waiting rooms and that. I like to be curled up on my couch. I like my light over my shoulder. I like to have my chart on the arm of the chair or on my tablet if I'm using Pattern Keeper. Hopefully this goes in Pattern Keeper. I haven't tried yet. And I just, that's mostly my quiet time and it's my rejuvenation time. Favourite type of stitching, in hand, again these are all from Viv's Craft still. In hand hoops, Q-snaps, frames, any stands I stitch in hand. That's it. I roll my fabric. It gets pretty crushed, but I roll my fabric, I stitch from the bottom. So I have it rolled from the top on my left hand and I have it across my lap. I tuck my elbows in. I use usually a short 28 needle, and I stitch from the bottom up, but I actually stitch sideways. So as in the bottom left is down here and the bottom right is up here, and as I stitch across the bottom, I'm actually stitching up and back. I will do a video on it. Apparently it's quite unusual, but I don't have to twist and I can keep my elbows in so I don't get sore elbows, and I'm only doing this so I don't get sore arms, so you know, and I can stitch quickly. So do I kit up my projects separately, meaning they have their own set of floss? Mostly. So sometimes the charts will say you need like a skein or 2 skeins or whatever, but that'll be based on 14 count with 2 threads. Two threads. So like, well, I'm doing 36 count with 1, so you can kind of easily quarter it, or not quarter it, but maybe, well, half it at the very least. But I have a look at the chart and I just get a feel for, you get used to like, oh, okay, that's how many stitches there are. I know roughly how many stitches I can get in a length of thread. I kind of work out how much I need, and I'll pull, so if it's less than half a skein, if I have enough in my master set, I'll just pull off X number of strands at like 16 inches long, cut them, either wind them onto their own bobbins or onto thread drops or whatever. If they need a full skein or more than a skein or even a half skein, if I don't have enough, I will go and buy those for that project, and again onto thread bobbins or floss drops. I use a variety of methods of holding my floss depending on the project, and it's really just what I'm in the mood for and what makes sense for me at the time. There are a few projects I don't do that for. So with Turkish tiles, there were 3 colours in it, and I just grabbed those 3 colours out, and I kind of had a mental note. I knew that I had there were 3 colours. I had 2 blues and an orange, and I kind of knew what they were. So if I was doing another project and I needed that colour, I could just go and grab it because the boxes are right next to my kits. And similarly with my Nora Corbett here, because it's a little project, I'm going to finish it pretty quickly. I did just pull the bobbins out. Because mostly I need, apart from the silks, which are, you know, full skeins and just for this project, and then the skin colour. The skin colour, I bought a whole skein for that because I didn't want to risk running out and having a colour change in the skin. Each of the girls has a solid sort of face and a different skin colour. So I just pulled them out. Again, it's right there if I'm looking for a colour, like I know there's 781 in there. I kind of remember what the colours are. And I just don't need much of most of the colours. To be fair, I didn't even need to pull them out, but I might travel with that. I might go and visit Karen and stitch with her, in which case I'll need those colours. So everything's just in that box, but when I do my video of my room tour, you'll see my floss boxes are in a cube, in a shelf, and the kits that my whips are in a cube next to the shelf. So, yeah, so if I buy over-dyed floss specifically for a project, I'll pop them into that project until I'm finished with them. So if I buy some weeks or some Gentle Arts specifically for a project, they go into the project, and then they go on my floss ring for general consumption. And if I've got a big hank of something, I'll just put some of it into the project because you don't need to carry a whole hank around. It takes a while to use a hank of silk, so you don't and even death by cross stitch barely only uses a half, so you don't need to carry all your silk around. Where is your usual stitchy spot? Basically on the other side of this wall is my orange couch of serenity, and I sit on the left hand side. It has a nice square arm that I can put my, so I can lean on the left hand side, I have a cushion down here, can tuck my feet up if I want, have all my crap over here in my little ort jar on the side. I can put I use a clipboard which has some needle minders on the middle part of the clipboard. I can put my paper chart on there, usually a working copy, or I can put the stand that I'm using for this, has a tablet holder as well. That can sit to my left with my tablet for pattern keeper, and I've got the light up on my left hand side. That's my stitchy spot. Very low maintenance. Very easy. And last one at this stage from Viv's Crafts is, do I usually give stitchy gifts to friends and family? Usually no. Do I? Yes. So I have over the years stitched things for family and friends. They're always something I've chosen for them. So it's not that I go, oh, I've finished this thing, oh, that's really cute, I'll give it to someone. I pick projects, I start projects with specifically for people in mind. For my dad's, I've shown it on a video months ago, way back. For my dad's 50th maybe, 50th I think. I stitched some elephants and got it, so I always frame gifts I give to people, they're always fully finished. So I stitched the elephants for him, and I stitched a piece for my mother, which I don't think I've shown you. It's in a trunk, I might get it out one day. It was just a really simple, you know, mother, you're amazing kind of saying thing, which I still have that. Or I took that when, after Mum died, I took that back as I've stitched it for her, but it's just in a trunk. I do want to stitch something new for my sister, because what I've stitched for her was something that was given to her and her first husband, and it was a little free GMC chart, little Christmas house with a letterbox, and on the letterbox I wrote their surname, and then when they separated, I was like, said to her, look, you know, let Jason keep it, it's got his name on it, you know. But I do want to stitch you something, which I've got a couple, I'm thinking about stitching that may I buy all through the night for her. I'm thinking about stitching that twice, once for me and once for her. But I've never stitched anything twice before, so we'll see. And also I want to do Anzac for her. I hope she doesn't, don't you watch this, Megan? Stitch Anzac by London Sampler for her. But that's going to be later. Not next year. And I've stitched, I think my sister stitched the birth sampler for her for my first nephew, and then I got it framed for him, and then I stitched the birth samplers for the next two. And then I've stitched a few things for some friends. I've stitched something for my friend, I just have to get it framed, for my best friend. But yeah, I don't stitch smalls and give smalls away and stuff. I could, I just haven't. But it's not that I wouldn't, I've got too much to stitch for me. And then we've got one from Judy Stitches. Are there certain websites you browse through to find that special chart? Not really. Sometimes I'm triggered by, enabled by somebody on FLOSSTUBE or friends who go, oh, I found this chart or whatever. So if I see a chart someone is showing, I'll often go and have a wee look around what else that designer does, because sometimes you go, oh, I really like that, but there might be another chart that designer did that actually speaks more to you. And I'm a little bit aware that sometimes we have FOMO, so we go, oh, it's amazing, and you want it, and then later on you kind of go, oh, that's not really my cup of tea. So I'll take a screenshot and I'll make a note and what have you, and then sit on it for a while. Generally I'll sit on it for a while, because sometimes it's just that it was exciting and new. I don't necessarily want to stitch what everyone else is stitching. But also, sometimes you just love the thing, right? You want to stitch it. But I don't... So yeah, I just follow a lead. You know, I do browse through Etsy a lot. I do check out Long Dog Samplers very often, but I follow her on Facebook and she usually posts when she's got a new design up anyway, so I don't really have to go stalk it. Very dangerous. There's a couple from HA. I don't know, HA, what your name is. You need to message me. Or maybe I do know and I just can't put a face to a handle. What are the tools for stitching you could but do not want to live without? I don't really use any tools, that's the thing. I don't need a needle minder, because to be fair, I usually only put my needle on the needle minder when I go to bed or put it away, because I use one needle. I don't keep my needles with my projects. I'm super not frugal, I'm just super I don't need fancy stuff. I have a couple of needle minders. I've only bought one, the rest were all free, that were given to me through retreats or from Silks for You or what have you. I bought one needle minder. And I usually just put, while I'm in the middle of stitching, I just shove it in my pants or in my top, and I don't even need a needle minder. I don't, you know what, probably my clipboard, I could do without it, but I don't like to be without it because it just helps to clip the pattern and it sits on the arm of my chair. Yeah, that's probably it, because I don't use anything other than, I mean, I have nice scissors. I could do without nice scissors. I love my scissors, but I used a cheap pair for 100 years. So I guess that's the answer, right? It says that I could do without, but I don't want to. My nice scissors, they're like butter to cut. My clipboard, I could do without that, but I don't want to. Other than that, I don't use any tools. It's going to be a long video. What were the first pieces you stitched and how much did your taste change over the years? The first cross stitch that I finished, counted cross stitch, was from a book of fluffy kittens with flowers and butterflies and stuff, and I can't remember what it's called. I've tried to find a picture of it. I stitched it and then I sold it. I sold quite a lot of my cross stitch over the years, where I've stitched something and went, oh, it's nice, but I don't want it hanging on my wall, and I don't love it anymore, you know, or doesn't make my, yeah. So I'll sell things or give them away, but usually you can sell things, and I don't try and make a big profit or anything. It's just like, if I can cover the cost of materials, happy, because I know that person's going to spend $300 to frame it, so, you know, I'm not, yeah. Yeah, so the two kittens in the window with the flowers just was like, it was pretty, and I love cats, but I don't want, it was very country, kind of whimsical, and like it wouldn't go in my house at all. This is like back when I was 18. So the second thing I stitched with my jesters on black. So if you go back to my first half dozen videos, I pretty much show a walkthrough of all of my stuff I had already stitched pre-picking up stitching again, so pre-2018. And my jesters is on black Lugana with Krennic and low battery Krennic and beads and everything. And that's the first thing and the only thing that I had framed for myself for many, many years. And it's hanging in my study. I mean, I wouldn't put it in my lounge, but I'm happy that my study can be, my craft room can be just a mess and have lots of stuff on the walls and shiny blingy things. Otherwise, I've always loved samplers. There's things that I stitched in I was going to say the 1900s. The 90s. Well, they were the 1900s, but the 1990s. The things I stitched in the 90s that I still love. I still love my Mirabellias. So, no, my tastes haven't really changed. Sometimes I might buy something, but again, it's more about the FOMO. So it's not that my tastes change. It's more that I look at it and go, Leigh, you're not going to stitch this. And then I'll sell it or give it away. But that's very rarely happens. Again from HA, I'm losing the light. Why did I do this in the middle of the night? It's not the middle of the night, but Is there a piece you enjoy stitching but won't match your house decor, won't be displayed for now? What are you doing with those pieces? Oh, that's pretty much what I just said, right? So my craft room is where I intend to eventually fill the walls with all of the blingy, girly, fantasy pieces. So I will have my fairies and my mermaids, and I'll probably have to swap stuff out over time because I don't think if I frame everything I intend to stitch or have stitched, I won't have room. But, you know, cycle things out, do a mermaid month or a fairy month or whatever. So anything that's too, it's really just the fantasy stuff mostly, that will go into that room. In my spare room, I have a massive wall that I can put, you know, 3 or 5. I can put a sampler wall up there if I want. Again, that's a bit, so at the moment it's quite neutral. So I have in my head, as I get things framed and pull together collections of items, because I have too much stuff to put one thing on a wall. I need to put 5 things on a wall. I can theme that, so I might do like more of a seasonal kind of thing in there, like, you know, swap out the duvet cover. I've just got really neutral curtains, or neutral blinds, so just swap out the duvet cover and a couple of knickknacks on the shelf, and, you know, I could go blue, I could go orange, I could go whatever. So that room there, my bedroom is mostly a cool. It's a greeny blue, and that one there I have sort of darker, moodier pieces, I guess, and then. My house I have a neutral coloured house. I do have a strong orange accent, but I have colour everywhere. I'm not into monochromatic, and I'm not into, I like colour. So I like my bookshelves to be colourful. I like to have colourful pottery. I like to have clusters of things on the walls, you know, like that. Yeah, so I'll just make it work, and some things are just going to stay hanging in the wardrobe, and I will enjoy looking at them. They may find their way to another home eventually, but sometimes you just stitch for the pleasure of it, right? How about smalls? How do you finish those? Well, I don't do a lot of smalls. I've made a couple of cushions. I'll probably make more cushions. I might make some flat folds in the future, but then they sort of sit on something. And flat surfaces are at a premium. Probably I've talked about, and I will do it one day, all of my Be Well and Stitch or Stay Home and Stitch pieces that I did during lockdown 1 back in 2020. I intend to make a cloth book out of it, a bit of a patchwork sort of book, with those as a bit of a memento that can just sit on the coffee table or sit in a shelf somewhere. I won't do anything special with them, I guess, but I kind of like having them. How did I get into stitching? No idea. Don't really remember. My mother and her sisters have always been handy, crafty, handy. In our house, we're always making stuff. We always had craft supplies. Mum taught us how to knit. And she failed to teach me how to crochet, and to sew, her sisters used to make things and sell them. One of my aunts still bakes embroidery and does embroidered things like cushions and tablecloths, and used to do quilting, and another aunt used to make stuffed toys and things to sell at craft fairs and stuff. So we've always just been really crafty and handy, and I don't know, I just picked it up and enjoyed doing cross stitch, and I don't know why I started, I just did. Okay, and then that was from Jodie, Darth Vader Stitcher, and then another one from her is there anything you would never stitch? There are things I would never stitch for me. I'm not going to stitch Easter. I'm not going to stitch St. Patrick's Day. I will stitch a little bit of Halloween, but only if I really like the design. I'm more likely to stitch fantasy stuff that you might think is Halloween, but not because it's Halloween. We don't celebrate Halloween. And I might do a little bit of Christmas. I do sometimes decorate for Christmas when I'm having friends around and stuff, because, you know, it is the season, but I don't really celebrate Christmas. However, I might stitch some of those things for other people, or if they wanted me to. So in theory, I would stitch anything, but it may not be for me. There are 5 questions that are specifically about 50 at 50. And then there's one that's about YouTube and stuff. So I'm going to leave them, I'll bundle them up together and go into more detail about my 50 at 50 and give people an overview of that. And then I'll talk about any other YouTube that I watch and all that. If you hung around, I hope those questions, I hope there were satisfactory answers to your questions. And I'm going to go and have some dinner and then have an early night because I've got work tomorrow and I'm pretty tired. Thanks for coming along. As always, don't let your needles rust. Ciao.